Hi, Reddit. I'm a 25-year-old male, male 25, and my fiance is a 24-year-old female, 24F. I have three older siblings, all of whom are married, and two of whom have very young kids. My three older siblings all got married to their spouses back in 2018 to 2019, with all three weddings happening within the span of 11 months. I was in all three weddings and was my brother's best man. At each one, I helped set up and tear down the decorations at the venue, set out and cleaned up tables and chairs, stayed late to help clean up, made sure everything went smoothly, and so on. Now, my oldest sister, whom we'll call Rachel, has a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and my brother has a 5-month-old. My fiance and I got engaged back in September, and our wedding is next month. A few months ago, Rachel approached me and said that she wanted to get the whole family together to celebrate my fiance and me, saying that I was always supportive and helpful at their weddings, and that she wanted to celebrate us. I agreed, so she messaged our family group chat and presented the idea that we all get an Airbnb in the mountains. She told everyone that the weekend was to celebrate my fiance and me. The family agreed, so Rachel planned the whole thing. For some context, my siblings and I have always been close and like to hang out together at family gatherings and holidays, and sometimes just whenever we can. However, ever since my siblings started having kids, every single family gathering has become completely focused on the little ones. While I absolutely love my nieces and nephews, sitting and watching a toddler and baby roll around on the floor, open presents, eat their snacks, and listen to my siblings talk about their children, what stage they're at, what random cute thing their kid did last week, is not exactly my idea of fun. My fiance agrees. This past weekend was the cabin trip to celebrate my fiance and me. Going into the weekend, we both expected that it wasn't actually going to be about us, and that it was just going to end up with everyone fawning over the little ones. The whole family said multiple times before the trip that it was a celebration weekend for my fiance and me. They specifically said, we didn't have to pay for the Airbnb because it was for us. Well, when we got there, it quickly became clear that it wasn't going to be about us at all. We were there for about 30 minutes before Rachel and her husband left to go to the store and left their kids at the cabin with us. Her baby immediately started crying and screaming the entire time Rachel was gone because she can't be separated from Rachel. Rachel and her husband were gone for almost 2.5 hours. When they finally got back, they announced that Rachel is pregnant again. That was only the first night. The next morning, my other sister, whom I'll call Sam, and her husband left around 9 a.m. to go hang out with some of their friends who lived near the cabin we rented. They didn't come back until after lunch. The rest of the weekend was filled with my parents and other siblings playing with the kids and talking to Rachel about the kids. My fiance and I participated for a bit because we wanted to hang out with my family, but it was very boring for us. All anyone ever wants to talk about is the kids, and all anyone ever wants to do is play with the kids. The only exception to this is my brother, who played a board game with my fiance and me until Rachel came back inside with her baby, who immediately started screaming and crying again. At the end of the second day, my dad brought out a flash drive that contained about 40 hours of old home videos from VHS tapes that he had recently digitized. Everyone else agreed that they wanted to watch the videos. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I was down because I thought it would be sentimental. I was the only one who brought a laptop, so I cast it to the TV and we started watching. Because there was so much, we had to do a lot of fast forwarding. It quickly became clear that 99% of the videos were from before I was born. My family was ordering me around on when to scrub forward, when to go back, when to stop, and so on. I offered several times to let someone else control it, but they kept saying things like, you just want to skip to the parts you're in, which wasn't the case at all. In fact, I didn't want to watch them in the first place. My fiance felt completely alienated during this little watch party, but neither of us felt like we could go do something else because this is a family activity, and I felt like it would be rude to leave or even suggest we stop and do something else. We wound up watching old VHS tapes of my siblings' childhoods for around an hour and a half before they decided they wanted to go have a bonfire. Sitting around the campfire, my siblings reminisced on old stories from their childhoods, their college stories, their old dating stories, none of which had to do with me or my fiancé. The only time they ever talked about a memory involving me was when they brought up embarrassing stories about me and laughed about them, teasing me for them. I can take a joke and laugh at myself, but that was literally the only time they talked about me. Towards the end of the night, as the fire was dying down, everyone had gone to bed except my fiance and me and Rachel and her husband. Everyone was leaving the next morning, and Rachel asked me, "Well, did you have any other dreams or anything you wanted to do this weekend?" As if we had completely checked off my list of things I wanted to do. Mind you, she asked me this around 11:30 at night on the last night there, when everyone had already gone to bed and everyone was leaving the next morning. I just kind of smiled and said no. Rachel asked if I was okay and that I seemed upset, but I just smiled and said I was just exhausted, which was true. The next morning, before everyone left, we had a birthday party for Rachel's youngest child, whose first birthday was 2 days away. This wasn't a part of the plan, and no one in the family group chat discussed this beforehand. Everyone brought presents for the baby, and we spent about an hour watching Rachel open presents for her 1-year-old. I was exhausted and done with the whole thing, so I went and took a shower while they did that. While I was getting dressed after my shower, my brother knocked on the door and told me to hurry up because they were ready to leave and wanted to say goodbye. After my brother and my other sister left, my dad pointed out a stack of 3 gift cards on the coffee table for my fiancé and me. We opened them by ourselves on the couch, while Rachel and her husband and my parents got the kids ready to leave. One was from my parents, one from Sam, and one from my grandparents who weren't even there. My grandparents had given us a gift card with $150 on it, and Sam had given us a $25 gift card. I don't want to sound ungrateful for those. My fiancé and I greatly appreciate the gifts. All in all, not a single part of the weekend was about us, but was completely about the children. This was par for the course of my family's gatherings in the last few years. I wouldn't have cared or been hurt at all about this if this weekend had just been a family gathering. But they went out of their way to say it was a celebration of my fiancé and me. They said many times that it was about us and to love on us. But not a single part of that weekend was about us. We got a few cards, but we weren't even given them. They were just left on the table. My dad had to point them out, like he almost forgot. If my fiancé and I hadn't been there, the weekend would have looked exactly the same. I know I probably sound ungrateful or self-centered about the whole thing. I'm very conflicted about the fact that I'm even upset. But they literally said several times that the whole point of this trip was to celebrate my fiancé and me and be about us. I feel like I can't really tell anyone in my family how I feel about it without sounding like a butthole who just wants all the attention. Am I in the wrong here? Should I even bother talking to Rachel or any of my other siblings? Edit. A few clarifications. My fiancé and I were specifically told not to plan anything and to just show up. I didn't retreat to my room as many comments suggested because I didn't have one. Everyone else had a room, and I was told to sleep on the couch. My fiancé had a room to herself because there weren't enough rooms for all of us. And my family is weird about couples sleeping in the same room before they're married. While I am an adult and can sleep wherever I please, doing so would have caused a way bigger fuss than was worth it. So I just slept on the couch. My fiancé and I didn't sulk. We participated in conversation as much as we could, but 95% of it was topics we couldn't relate to or contribute to, those topics being centered around their children. A few comments asked what my vision expectations were for the weekend. My expectations were that it was supposed to be a celebration for my fiancé and me, like an engagement party, but only with family. Those were my expectations, because that's what Rachel told everyone repeatedly leading up to the trip. I didn't have a checklist of events/activities/conversations that I wanted to happen in order to feel celebrated. At one point before the trip, Rachel literally told me she didn't want me to do any of the planning or anything because it was supposed to be for us. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. They wanted an excuse to have a family vacation. I'm surprised no red flags went off when people said it was going to be a vacation focused on you two. Who does that? Anyway, this is precisely why I'm skipping a family vacation this year. I, as Auntie, get left with all the kids and doing the grocery shopping and the cooking, and it's not a vacation for me. I love all my nieces and nephews, but I'd like to spend some time with my brothers, and their wives won't let us do anything on our own. We either have to take the kids or we can't go. I'm talking about, say, taking the boat out and fishing for 2 hours. I'm sorry that was so disappointing. Probably should not do those kinds of trips anymore or stay separate so you two can escape on your own. Comment 2. That is correct. Once you have kids, those kids by definition must become the center of your universe. However, these parent siblings of yours should have known better than to promise you an entire weekend of ignoring their offspring to focus solely on you and your fiancé. Every single person involved in this should have recognized that you simply can't do adult time on a trip with little kids along. They should have left the kids with relatives/babysitters if their intention was to make this all about you. Now, for the update. Thank you for sticking around for this update. So, after that weekend at the cabin, things got even more tense. My fiancé and I were pretty upset, but we decided to keep it to ourselves. We didn't want to start any drama before our wedding, which was coming up fast. But then, my brother, the one with the 5-month-old, called me out of the blue. He said he felt bad about how the weekend went and wanted to make it up to us. He offered to throw us a small, intimate dinner with just the siblings, no kids. I was hesitant, but my fiancé thought it was a sweet gesture, so we agreed. The dinner was set for the following Saturday at my brother's place. We were actually looking forward to it, a chance to really connect with my siblings without any distractions. But then, the day before the dinner, my brother called again. His baby had gotten sick, nothing serious, but he and his wife were exhausted and stressed. He said they couldn't host the dinner anymore. I understood, but it felt like another letdown. My fiancé saw how disappointed I was and suggested we host the dinner ourselves. It was a risk because we were already stretched thin with wedding planning and expenses, but we decided to go for it. We spent all Friday night and Saturday morning cooking and setting up our small apartment for the dinner. It was a lot of work, but we were determined to have a good time. Everyone arrived, and for the first hour, it was great. We were laughing, sharing stories, and for once, it felt like the celebration was about us. But then, my sister Rachel's babysitter canceled last minute, and she brought her kids to the dinner. The focus shifted immediately. The baby started crying, and the toddler was running around demanding attention. My heart sank. It was happening again. But then, something unexpected happened. My sister Sam, who had been pretty quiet the whole time, stood up and took charge. She told Rachel to go enjoy her dinner and that she would take care of the kids. She wasn't usually the assertive type, but she must have seen the look on our faces. Sam spent the rest of the evening entertaining the kids in another room, and for the first time in a long time, we had a family event that was about us. The dinner ended up being a success. We laughed, we shared memories, and we felt celebrated. My brother apologized again for not being able to host, and Rachel thanked Sam for stepping in. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to us. It showed that our family could come together and support us when it really mattered. As for the wedding, it's next week, and we're hopeful. We've had a serious talk with our family about keeping the focus on us for the day. After the dinner, I think they finally understand. It's been pretty hard on us, but it looks like things are turning around. Thank you for reading. My boyfriend mocked my pain when I burned my hand and cheated on me. So I left him and showed him what success looks like without him. Hi. So I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. He was my first everything and vice versa. Recently, our relationship has been very rocky. I would get upset that my texts would be left unread and my calls unanswered, the usual stuff. Anyways, during a break from our classes, we headed to a shop to get lunch before our next lectures. While I was pouring my coffee, I turned to see where he was and ended up spilling the coffee on my hands. It was a horrible pain and I was taken completely by shock. I called him over to ask for help. He started telling me how I was stupid for doing this. When I said it burns, he said, "Yeah, that's what happens when you spill coffee." I was upset and in a lot of pain and I snapped back, "Can you please just help me?" He jumped back and told me to fuck off and left me in the shop. It took me a good few more minutes to get the coffee off me. I couldn't think clearly and went to buy a cold drink and sat down. After a while, the pain escalated, and I stumbled my way to our campus matron. On my way there, I walked past him, and he ignored me. I had burned off the top layer of my skin, and I'm now being treated for infections from the open wound. My hand will be permanently scarred. Later, when I got home, he texted me saying he had done nothing wrong, and that's what happens when I'm rude and yell. I asked other people who were there if I yelled. They said they didn't even notice I was there. He keeps telling me to move on, but I refuse to, until he apologizes. But he's dead set on the idea I deserved it. 2 days later, as we were walking home, he and a friend of his recalled the events, and his friend said I deserved to be left there for being so mean. They both laughed, and I ended up leaving. I'm very upset because if I had gotten help earlier, the scar would not be as large. I might not even have a scar at all. I also hate being made fun of. How do I move on? Edit. I changed a few details so this wouldn't get back to me. It was soup, not coffee. Sorry for the confusion. It was very thick, so it didn't immediately slide off my hand. It was kept in this big metal pot that was being heated constantly, and there was a metal ladle to pour the soup into a cup. Edit 2. Once again, I'm very sorry for changing soup to coffee. I seem to make people angry, and that's understandable since coffee doesn't make any sense. Edit 3. This has received a lot more comments than I was expecting, but honestly, it's very helpful. Even the negative comments correct me on things I've done wrong. I also want to say sorry for things I have done wrong. I want to thank everyone for helping. I'm scared to lose him, but a lot of people helped me realize he's not the person I started dating. He's been a part of every day of my life for 2 years, so I think that's why I couldn't come to that conclusion on my own. I came here because all of my friends are his friends first, so they would feel uncomfortable with me sharing this. A lot of people said a person who likes me wouldn't do that. I may be stupid to not understand that beforehand. Thank you again. Edit 4. I don't know how many times I'm able to edit this, but if I can one more time, I will update when I have fixed this. I will be better single. Also, for those saying I should have asked someone else for help, or I should know basic first aid. I have autism, and speaking to people I've never met before when I'm nervous or overstimulated usually ends with my words combining and overlapping. And it's not exactly tangible. But I do agree I should have tried to talk or signal to a staff member what happened. Also, it was a shop, not a cafe. I would say the American equivalent would be like a self-serving Costco or a corner shop. I have gone to the doctor after the fact, and yes, I do have second-degree burns across the soft tissue of my thumb and my pointer finger and all across my thumb. I was told it would scar, but a lot of people tell me eventually it will go away, so that leaves me hopeful. Some people said I am not smart enough to be in college, and sadly I agree with some of those statements. Academically, I do well since I have a spelling exemption for dyslexia, but socially I'm not very intelligent. A lot of people describe me as oblivious and naive. It has and will never be my intention to drag my boyfriend, ex. I never want him to see this. I love him a lot, and I loved him as a friend for many years. But some people aren't supposed to be together. Final edit. I broke up with him. Thank you all for the help. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Break up with him right now. I know it is a long-term relationship and it is hard for you to imagine not being with him, but this is absolutely insane, and the way he is treating you is unacceptable. And the fact that his friends feel comfortable talking to you like this should make you question how your boyfriend talks about you when you're not around. You deserve someone that cares about your open wound instead of telling you to fuck off. Comment 2. Every day we get closer to the hypothetical, my partner unalived my entire family in front of me and did the hokey pokey on the corpses. How can I get over my trauma in time for our anniversary trip? Post becoming a reality. Don't date people who don't care if you're injured and in pain. Instead, choosing to deflect to being outraged that you raised your voice to ask for their help. Don't be friends with people who enable those people. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for an update. So, things have been pretty intense since I last wrote. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. My ex, let's call him X, started spreading rumors about me. He told people I was overreacting about the burn and that I was trying to get attention. It was humiliating. People I didn't even know were looking at me funny and whispering when I walked by. I tried to ignore it, but it was hard. I felt so alone. My friends who were also friends with X seemed to be on his side. They would change the subject whenever I brought up what happened or how I was feeling. It was like they didn't want to get involved, or worse, they believed him over me. Then, one day, I overheard X's friend, the same one who laughed with him that day, telling someone that I was probably going to fail this semester because I was too busy playing the victim instead of studying. That really got to me. I've always been proud of my grades, and now it felt like even my academic reputation was under attack. But the real kicker came when I found out X had cheated on me. A girl from our class approached me and awkwardly told me she thought I should know. She'd been seeing X for a few months. She had no idea he was in a relationship until she saw us together one day. I was shocked. I felt like such a fool. I confronted X about it, and he didn't even deny it. He just shrugged and said it wasn't a big deal since we were practically over anyway. I couldn't believe his nerve. It was like he had no remorse at all. I was so angry and hurt, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. It was like I finally had a clear reason to end things. Something undeniable that I couldn't just brush off or excuse. I decided to focus on my studies and try to salvage what was left of my semester. I spent long hours in the library, avoiding the places I knew X and his friends would be. It was lonely, but it was better than running into them. One day, while I was studying, I got a text from X. He said he needed to talk to me and that it was urgent. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a quiet corner of the campus. He looked serious, which was unusual for him. He told me he was sorry. He said he realized he had been a jerk and that he missed me. He wanted to get back together. I was taken aback. Part of me wanted to just forgive him and go back to the way things were. But then I remembered the pain of the burn, the rumors, the cheating, and the loneliness. I told him no. I said I deserved better and that I was moving on. He didn't take it well. He got angry and accused me of being heartless. He said I would regret this. I just walked away. Since then, I've been doing my best to rebuild my life. I've been reaching out to people outside of our shared friend group, trying to make new connections. It's not easy, but I'm determined. I've also been taking care of my hand. The scar is still there, a constant reminder of what happened, but it's healing. I'm learning to look at it not as a mark of shame, but as a sign of my strength and my ability to overcome tough situations. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a rough week, but I'm getting through it, one day at a time, and I'm starting to feel hopeful about the future again. Thanks for reading. My fiancé hid money and planned to leave me and our daughter. So I took him to court and secured full custody plus child support. This could be a long post because I have a lot on my chest and no one to talk to. I'm wondering how other people handle having no money, among other things. I, 37-year-old female, live with my significant other fiancé, 50-year-old male, and we have a 19-month-old daughter. Before him, I was very independent. I lived alone, had no children, and was financially stable. I struggled during my studies as a medical assistant, but overall came out well with a job giving infection 19 vaccines during the pandemic. Towards the end of the pandemic, my fiancé and I got together, and I got unexpectedly pregnant within a couple months. He proposed at our baby shower, and I moved in with him. He has a good job and makes about $160,000 a year. He pays all the bills and supports our child well. The problem that keeps coming up is that I am never allowed to have my own money. Obviously, at the time, I had not been able to work because of our child. There is a shortage of childcare in Ontario, so using daycare to work was not an option for me. The only family I have around us who can care for her would be his 71-year-old mother. He works underground in the mines and is usually gone for 3 weeks at a time. He usually leaves me with no money, which means if I need anything, I would have to text him the night before to ask him to send me money for the next day. Then, when he does, it would be a specific amount to cover exactly what it is that I need. If I happen to deviate from the list, it causes a huge fight, and makes it harder to get money for the next time without more questions asked. He claims me in taxes, so I also do not receive any GST or anything like that. Additionally, he makes too much money for me to receive Canadian child tax benefits. If he does give me money for anything for myself, it always somehow gets used against me as a point of, you say I don't buy you things, but what about this or this? For example, I wanted to get a tattoo, and I was going to use my income tax return. But he ended up getting it because he claimed me. He did give it to me in the end, but under the impression that it was his money and he was doing me a favor. If I spent it on anything aside from what it was meant for, he would not give me more. Over the last few months, he has been working less due to a lack of work. I would like to preface this by saying that I know he works hard for his money, but he is constantly telling me we are short on funds and that I am not allowed to spend anything because he knows I'll buy more than what I say I will. I know he is allowed to spend his own funds however he wants, but it's frustrating that he buys expensive things like a $7,000 car trailer or a $10,000 motorhome last summer. He even took out a $20,000 loan to buy used old cars and then spends money on parts for the car. But then yells at me in front of people, making me cry, for spending $200 on groceries because you said you were only spending $70. Anyway, because he seems to be off for a month at a time, I decided to find a job. I was hired at a school board as an educational assistant, which is perfect because I can choose the days I'm available to work. And while he is home, he can take care of our child. I have only received one paycheck so far, which I spent on groceries, and I bought one bottle of alcohol, as well as paid back money I owed my dad. I have another paycheck coming, but it isn't until May 15th, and today I needed to buy shirts for work. He surprisingly asked if I needed money. I said no, I would borrow from Dad and pay it back. It saves a fight. And he handed me $200 anyway, which I shouldn't have taken because this post is the result. With the money, he said to buy things for pasta salad, whatever our daughter wanted for a toy, and shirts. I went and bought 2 shirts, but I also bought 2 pairs of pants. I bought salad kits for myself, for work lunches, garbage bags, pajama pants, because he gets mad if I wear his, and the stuff for his pasta salad. I never ended up buying her a toy because I knew I wouldn't have enough. And she has a ton anyway. I came home and it was the end of the world because I had bought pants. If I hadn't bought myself pants, then I would have had enough for a toy. And it isn't just that he is mad, it's how he talks to me. Like, I'm stupid for doing something as dumb as buying something I needed without having permission. So then I borrowed money from my dad to buy a toy for her, in which I will pay back. But then he loses his mind, because that isn't good enough. Still, I just shouldn't have done wrong to begin with. He says that my paychecks will be gone to my dad before I even get them, because I borrow money for things. I say if I wasn't afraid to ask him, then I wouldn't have that problem to start with. Then he starts saying things like how I spend money on alcohol and insinuating I'm an alcoholic, all while he is a smoker, etc. I am not an alcoholic, by the way. Everything that goes wrong is always my fault. He always has something to say about what I do wrong, but never anything I do well or how I'm a good mother. He makes me feel like I am a child who can't be left alone to make my own decisions, even concerning his proposal. Like why? I have given up any kind of wedding planning because he thinks I want a huge, expensive dress and expensive hair and makeup. I suggested going to Cuba or even Town Hall, and that's a hell no. But then, if someone else suggests it, it's a great idea. I feel there is so much more, but I know not everyone wants to read a long post, so I can answer questions as they come. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Unexpected pregnancy. He intentionally got you pregnant 100%. He trapped you. Now you're a stay-at-home mom who has to follow all of his whims and are far from being the independent, proud, and strong person you used to be. Comment 2. Find childcare as soon as possible. Get on as many wait lists as you can and get back to work. This is complete financial abuse. Do not marry this man. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around to hear more of my story. So, after I borrowed money from my dad to buy our daughter a toy, Things went from bad to worse. My fiancé started accusing me of being irresponsible and wasteful. He was always controlling, but now he was tracking every penny I spent. I felt like I was suffocating. Then, out of nowhere, my fiancé's best friend, who's been like an uncle to our daughter, came to me with a confession. He'd been helping my fiancé hide money. A lot of it. Turns out, the lack of work was a lie. My fiancé had been stashing cash away for a rainy day, but really he was planning to leave me and take our daughter with him. His friend couldn't keep the secret anymore. Seeing how it was tearing me apart, I was devastated. Betrayed by the man I was supposed to marry, and by someone I considered family. But I wasn't going to let this slide. I took action. I gathered evidence of the hidden funds and went to a lawyer. It was a messy fight, but I managed to secure a court order freezing his assets. He couldn't touch the money he'd hidden, and I got enough financial support to move out and start fresh. But the drama didn't end there. My fiancé tried to turn the tables on me, spreading rumors that I was the one who had been unfaithful and that I was trying to take his money. He didn't expect me to fight back as hard as I did. I had messages, bank statements, and his friend's testimony. It was a long, ugly battle, but in the end, the truth came out. I got full custody of our daughter, and with the financial support, I was able to go back to school to further my education. I wanted to be more than just a medical assistant. I wanted to be independent again, for my daughter and for myself. As for my fiancé, he lost a lot of friends when they found out what he'd done. His reputation took a hit, and so did his pride. He tried to apologize to win me back, but I was done. I focused on my daughter and my career, and I've never looked back. Thanks for reading my update. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.